Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first virtual Ellen Robbins Poetry Forum. We're here to honor and hear Mahogany L. Browne. We're very proud to have her here. I want to thank the Robbins family for their many contributions, as well as the community, the staff, the students, the faculty, and everyone who's here today. This is amazing to see so many people here today. A little bit about Mahogany L. Browne before we begin. She's a writer, organizer, educator, and spoken word poet. She is the author of the young adult poetry book, Black Girl Magic, and the children's book, Woke Baby. Her poetry collections include Kissing Caskets and Red Bone. She co-edited the poetry anthology, The Breakbeat Poets, Volume 3, Black Girl Magic, and is at work on Woke, a young poet's guide to justice. She is also the founder of the Woke Baby Fair, a nationwide diversity literature campaign. Ms. Browne is the recipient of numerous literary fellowships and has appeared on BuzzFeed Live, HBO, and the PBS NewsHour. She is the artistic director of Urban Word, New York City, and the poetry coordinator at St. Francis College's MFA program. Presently, she resides in Brooklyn, New York. So let's everyone give her a virtual hand to Mahogany L. Browne.
Thank you, Dolores. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm excited to talk with you, Candace. So what I will do is I will read a couple of pieces that I've written since the pandemic, and then, of course, some things that I've been focused on pre-pandemic. And then I will save a couple of things for after our conversation. So things I don't really get to read a lot, I'm going to try and pull from there. The 19th Amendment and my mama. I always took it for granted. The right to vote, she said. And I knew what my mother meant, her voice constricted tightly by the flu A virus and a 30-year relationship with Newport 100s. I ain't no chain smoker, she attempts to silence my concern. Only a pack a week, that's good, you know? My mother survived a husband she didn't want and an addiction that loved her more than any human needs. I sit to write a poem about the 19th Amendment's 100-year anniversary, and my first thought returns to the womb and those abortions I did not want at first, but alas. The thirst of an almost anything is a gorge always looking to be, until the body is filled with more fibroids than possibilities. On the 19th hour of the fourth day in a new decade, I will wake restless from some nightmare about a bomb and a man with no backbone on a golf course who close his Motorola phone like an exclamation point against his misogynistic stance. He swings the golf club with each chant. Women let me grab. Women like me. Women vote until I say they don't. In my nightmare, he is an infective agent. In the clear of day, he is just the same. Every day he breathes is a threat to this country's marrow for Ida and Susan and Lucretia and Elizabeth. And every day he tweets grief like a cynical cornball comics receipts, like a red light signaling the end of times. The final night of 2019 and my New Year's Eve's plans include anything that will numb the pain of a world breaking its own heart. My mother and I have already spoken, and her lungs are croaking wet. I just want you to know I don't feel well. And I pause to pull up my stockings beneath my crumpled smile. On this night, I wonder. On this day, I sigh. I just wanted to dance and drink and forget about the 61.7% votes. My silk dress falls to my knees with the same swiftness, defiant as the white feminist who said she stood by me, then voted for the demise of our nation's most ignored, underpaid, imprisoned, and impoverished citizens. Every day, there is a phone near. I miss my mother. in the waiting room of the OBGYN, uptown bound on the dirt orange train seat of the subway. Oh, how my mother loves the places she can never go. Her bones swaddled with arthritis and smoke, so she relies on my daily bemoans. The train smells like yesterday, Ma. They raise the tolls and fix nothing for the people. My landlord refuses to fix my toilet, sink, refrigerator. The city is annoying, like an old boyfriend. This woman didn't say thank you when I held open the door, and who does she think she is? Each time I crack and cap on the everydayness of my day, my mother laughs as if she can see the flimsy MTA card, the yellow cab that refuses to stop for her youngest daughter. In these moments, she can live again. A whole-bodied woman with a full mouth to speak it plain. I ask my mother, what hurts? What hurts? How can I help from here? 3,000 miles away, alone in a tower between the sea and the Mexico border, my mother sighs, a little sigh, and says nothing. I just wanted to hear your voice. So that was commissioned by the Academy for American Poets and the New York Philanthropic Orchestra. The next one I want to read was commissioned by the Illinois of Humanities nonprofit program that curated a series responding to mass incarceration and different themes. So the theme that they were tackling when I joined the project was reopening. What does the word reopen mean to you? And this was about month 6, maybe 5 of quarantine. Corrective state. San Quentin ain't got a skyline to dream about, but my uncle's pride in my ability to recover from an ankle twist on a slab of broken concrete make it seem so. Some say I play pickup games like I've been to the pen. I smirk, a double dribble skipping across my mistaken face. 20 years later, a solar system rigs of a planet makes itself a new moon to rock the tides. Still, the barbed wire and shotguns work like clock clicks, and my father still doesn't know how many times I've challenged death. The COVID-19 that spread across my chest. My breathing so close to an island submerged in fluid, I stuttered awake on the 11th night. I wept until the cold medicine carried me back to sleep. The sickness lies, a boundaryless wretch, and it was the most American thing I've ever felt. Secure in my home and still dying from the heat of capitalism. They are reopening the world after the planet tried to reset itself, and the prisons are still packed with people afraid to believe in redemption. Racist adjacent smiles forgive white-collar crimes as hedge funds funnel into protective custody, a static of dispatch, the walls clean with other men's teeth. Antibody tests smell like Henrietta Lacks coming back to remind us of what happens when you trust a house of poachers and they call us ungovernable. The way we picket and protest this morning is a reminder. Steel bars don't melt with silence. The people behind bars are captives of war. The people behind bars are captives of war. The people stolen into camps and cages say it clearly. I want to go home. I want to hold my daughter. I want to see my mother one last time. There ain't no poem in that. The human form was not meant to be locked up, locked down, cage bound. Consider your own bones, the way they lengthen as soon as you turn your face to the sun, a mask over your nose relinquishing itself to this adaptation of love. Inhale, inhale, inhale the new day, crisp in its welcome. Send a kite to Folsom as we correct our form. Right. So that is another one of those things that I was surprised that I wanted to write and then it happened, you know? So looking at mass incarceration specifically, I just finished this art project. It's called Wash the Dead. And I want to read something from there, specifically a cento. I was excited to work with the class this morning. And a cento is one of those forms that challenges you to not only study, other writing and voices, but it encourages you to make something new with the gems that our poets have left for us. So a cinto is a poem written using only the lines or lyrics from other artists. And in this case, I've used only lines from poems from Polly Murray, who was a civil rights activist, lawyer, amazing poet. It's reverse cinto with the guidance of Polly Murray. I am weary, O God. I am a prophet without eyes to see. The man laughed a golden laughter, shouted and sand danced up and down as do all free things, finding themselves free. Pity the poor who hate, brown girl chanting, rust-colored peasant, bronze girl wielding ship hulls, queen of ghetto, children of courage, the nameless millions, native and migrant. Take a black's manhood, give a white God. He twists, he spins, he claws at the sun. Brown men think and feel, are hurt and broken. Hail as you must. A tractor and turbines whirled, let men turn face outward to the sky. I am the spine of the earth, in the curved stem of an apple. Sometimes the birds and flowers fill my path with song and bloom. Defiant tree, the dreams of slaves and beggars and songs of dead poets haunted me all day. Call it neither love nor spring madness. Be without a name. I am at peace. Earth has her need of rain, an eye of tears. Words tiptoeing from mouth to ear, I have listened. And thousands move together, a new dream and a new world for dreaming. And new world for dreaming. So thinking about dreaming, I think I'll close my section here with some poem. Well, this is one full-length poem. It's called I Remember Death by its proximity to what I love the most. It's a book-length poem, and it will be out next September 2021 with Haymarket. I'll read a little bit of this, and then I'll close with one more poem before we get into talking. And it's a little bit. I'll read a nice chunk. If my mother were ever convicted for her addiction like my father, I wonder who I would be robbing now. The data from the Fragile Family Study says, my kind of survival displays more behavioral problems and early juvenile delinquencies. I say, you're right. I rode the night with a pistol in my gray hoodie, spitting image of my father. His nickname akin to Boom. His red skin the only thing I remember, him towering over me, black hair, red bloodshot eyes, already running, already gone. This was the closest time I ever came to becoming a woman with a number for a name. It is easier than you think to lose yourself in search of resemblance. Politicians with expensive silk ties, cut taxes, pad pockets, sterilize would-be mothers, charge the district with the bill. Cue reality TV series, then suggest art programs to settle the inmates before wondering why humans climb the walls trying to escape their own skin. After the teaching artist is asked to stop bringing poems that encourage collective behavior. Marathon runs of Wentworth miss the room like smoke clouds. And I know TV is only TV to someone that ain't never been forced to look outside their own heartbreak before. I binge watched the Australian TV show. After a several-week streaming stint, I find myself crying for a world which held my father and uncles and brother and cousins like a fist. What's a cliff dive to a Black man hustled by his own country? He earns 92 cents an hour and my tuition still ain't free. The woman behind the financial aid counter asks me what my father makes. I say furniture for the dorms here. I say, grandfatherless children. I say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who he is. And no one prays for their babies. I enter the gates of a boys' prison menacing the border of Bristol, England. The smell that refuses to leave my jean jacket 3 days later must resemble the air of Pelican Bay. I toss the jacket in the trash, privileged with the ability to push away the dilemma of a nation-induced disorder. Nation-induced disorder was the original name of this poem until I realized it is a worldwide condition fueled by capitalism. This global epidemic is rampant in Thailand, Australia, Mexico, Honduras, Brazil, Papua New Guinea, Ukraine, and Belize. This must be the scent of apathy, and this is still the closest I'll ever come to visiting my father. I remember death by its proximity to what I loved the most. Yesterday, Nipsey was mowed down in front of his clothing store on Slauson and Crenshaw. The world raged on, a forest of dying. Like glaring of cats leveled their fangs into a neighboring fir, or the gang of buffalo broadside beneath the Compton skyline, while a parade of elephants spared us the eulogies as they moved in silence when a cauldron of bats darkened every street to match the heat of a people. Our young, romp-like uttered blessings to the bleak-faced crash as an ambush of tigers scowled at the full drift of red blues. This is how we grieve. Candles and teddy bears and flowers and posters. Tears and prayer hands and wailing, fighting and swinging and singing and singing for the flawed men that searched for redemption, for the men that remind us of home. Just minutes away in Inglewood, California, my uncle pulls his blue plastic folding chair under the nearest shaded tree in the communal yard to watch the passersby. My uncle's youngest brother has been dead for years. He sits outside anyway. I wonder, does he still smell the See's candy factory 2 blocks away? Does he remember how sweet and satisfying it tasted after we pulled our change together for lollipops? Does he still wait for my gone uncle to visit? Is that what he's risking under the sun? I remember death. When my favorite cousin Andrew is murdered, a shotgun blast to the dome. I am in Sacramento preparing for my Little League softball finals. I play my position, catcher or third base. I want to be the pitcher. I want to deliver the strikeouts, but the daughter of the coach is much more consistent than I am. So I play my positions. I guard where I'm told. I never tag anyone out. We don't win this season. I decide I love the game even if I never win. I decide I love the game even if it never loves me back. I remember. When I return home, my mother is nowhere to be seen, but her smell is everywhere. I don't want to burden her with the bad news her child didn't win. But when I hear a gasp somewhere behind her closed door, I figure she knows what I know. I don't think twice of the phone's plastic echo as it returns to its cradle in haste. Andrew, a teenager with a brilliant smile. Andrew, just out of jail. Andrew, my favorite cousin. Andrew could erupt a room into confetti of joy. Andrew, a gunshot wound to the head. Andrew, bloody and dying in front of our cousin who screamed and cried and cradled his face in one hand, her other hand holding close her newborn son. When I hear her name at our family barbecue years later, after she's testified against the killers and lost her spirit to dance with friends, I make her a new world. I decide she must look like she's never held a dead boy before. Her mushroom hairstyle is asymmetric and perfect. Her eyes shine. Maybe, maybe, she still smiles and drinks her sweet Pepsi. So if I can write, I do. If I can write, I do. Today, when the sky is forgiving enough and the smog pretends itself an heirloom of history, I am sky dumb, cloud sick until still there, in the corner of my smile, is a poem waiting to be picked up, dusted off, and shined real good. But all I can muster is the strength to pull myself to the bathroom mirror and try to relocate my father's rage. Instead, I find you, silly poem, waiting to be seen, waiting to be.
Thank you, Mahogany. I am so overwhelmed and so grateful to be here with you today. As I'm sure if you could see everybody's face, just sort of the emotion and the power that each one of those readings evoked. It's just amazing. I'm not surprised because the first poem that I was exposed to of yours was the video clip of Black Girl Magic, and I have a copy of the poem book.
Woo! I was going to read it, but I didn't know if you wanted me to read it before we started talking or not.
Yeah, whenever you want. But when I watched that for the first time, just the content, the delivery, your delivery is fascinating. And I just tear up every time. And I've showed it to my classes, I've showed it to my friends, and I still get the same response every time. And
Thank
hey,
you.
when that happens, that means you have something there. And I'm sure you have a ton of favorite works that you've written, but do you have one that maybe you're like, yeah, you did your thing on this one, that's really like your favorite?
I guess Black Girl Magic is still like a favorite for me. It was written in the midst of so much sorrow. So the fact that I could find like a joy to bring to these spaces, it's definitely one of my faves. I'll read it anytime, anywhere. And also, surprisingly enough, Woke Baby, the children's poem that I wrote, it surprised me. And I love reading it at story time with kids. It's only a 5-minute thing, but it's very fun.
Yeah, yeah. So those are great, and they're short, but they're just, I mean, so immensely powerful. And I also have the Woke a Young Poet's Guide, a Young Poet's Call to Justice here too. And for everyone who's interested in these, we will have a link at the end of the session so that you can purchase those from Mahogany and read some more of her stuff. So I have a question. So we hear, sort of these terms, Black Girl Magic, woke, things like that, just sort of floating around in our society and our culture on social media. So I'm curious, can you explain to folks what it means to be woke in our society in your sort of opinion today? And why is it so important to call the youth to justice, to social justice issues? Why is it important to get them involved?
So the first part, what does woke mean? I think it changes, right? It changes depending on the time, but if we're looking at when it came up, when it was being used, that was during the civil rights movement. And I learned through further study that honestly, it was also, it was a part of, what is his name? I just forgot. Lead Belly. Lead Belly said something about it being woke, don't sleep, especially when you're going through certain spaces. You have to remain woke. You have to see what's going on around you. And that was in the 40s. So I had no idea it went that far back. I knew that woke meant as a child coming from Oakland, California, it is a constant that you're understanding your power as a community member and what being vocal means and looks like. So woke to me has always meant being accountable to your community and standing up and having, those hard discussions, especially when you see injustice happening. And the importance of being woke now, it's more than just a tag. It's more than, a Twitter thread. There has to be some action behind it. So you can definitely be woke and aware. I asked for a 4-year-old, maybe fourth graders, 4-year-old to fourth grade, that era. I was doing one of those story times, and that age group. And I asked, what does woke mean to like the little kids? And a little girl said, it means your eyes are open and you see everything. And I was like, in the end, I quit. You're right. That's it. It means you are aware and actualized and seeing everything around you. So the reason that woke a young poet's call to justice is important to me now is that I truly believe that if we had discussions about kindness and compassion and empathy, it wouldn't be so hard for the Congress to have a discussion about restorative and transformative justice, right? Why is it so difficult for grown-ups to get it? It's probably because we didn't have those discussions when they were younger. And really like make it more than the bottom line. It has to be more than a dollar sign. There's a human behind this action. So what does empathy mean? What does justice really mean? What does community organizing and community advocacy mean? What does it mean to be an ally? What does it mean to talk about ableism and work against that? Even though you may not be in a wheelchair, you know what it means to not have access to something. So what are you doing to make sure your neighbors have access, right? So those things, those are the conversations, just small building blocks of much larger concepts. So by the time they get older, we won't have to have these really hard, breakdowns about different, policies that are up for debate. They'll have all the tools that they need, and it will come, second nature. It'll already be in practice.
I can show you while I'm sitting on here a few of her works that I had the privilege of reading. So there's a work here called Kissing Caskets. I don't know if you can see that. A lot about family, gender roles, addiction. That's a great one. There's a collection that she has called Unlikely and Other Sorts. They're kind of like a bunch of short stories, some poems mixed in here and there. I'm gonna ask her a couple of questions about this. She's got here, this one's called Redbone. This one is a story about a Black woman and what she sort of goes through where she lives. So that's great. They're all really powerful and interesting. And if you can Google any of her other videos, check them out as well. So, you brought up Congress, and not to get into any sort of political conversation, right? But you write a lot of—
I love it. Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay, good. So you write a lot about social justice issues, right? And we are 2 days after the election. We still don't have a decision. How do you think, whatever way it plays out, the outcomes, how do you think that that's going to influence your writing? Because you write so much about things that are in our current, that we're looking for policy on, that we're looking for movement on. How will that influence your writing, do you think, however it goes?
I try to, do my due diligence as a writer in these times. And James Baldwin talked about the writer, having your finger on the pulse of history. Toni Morrison, like all of the greats have told us what our marching orders are. And what I know about history is revision of those, it's an art piece responding to a time. You can tell what was going on, right? The artist is not, creating these falsities for ratings or whatever. They're responding because you have to have an archive of, this is our living history. And I want to be there. I want my work to remain as a reminder of, I saw this and this and this happen. And as much as you would like to pretend that, you bringing this person into, a Supreme Court is not, anti-pro-life, like we have to be there to constantly piece through and filter through the noise. And that's what I want my art to do. So I'm sure I'll be responding. I wrote something yesterday, and today the numbers are just, it's too much. So I'm giving myself, a break to just read poems and talk with you and not necessarily, run myself in a corner and shame myself for not being productive. Experiencing it, living in it, the art will come, the poems will come.
Yeah, well, we look forward to those. Make sure you keep us on the speed dial for those when they come out. So in talking about art, right, and how it's sort of a response to the time, I'm curious about, you used a lot in this collection, Unlikely and Other Stories.
It doesn't even exist anymore.
It doesn't exist anymore? Oh no, this is great. This should still exist. So, well, anyway, I read it, and I noticed throughout, you draw on hip hop a lot. right? And music is also a response, you know, as an art form to the times. And you talk about hip hop in various works. I'm curious, just for my own personal knowledge, what hip hop artists are your favorite? Which ones do you draw influence from the most?
Oh, I guess it would depend on the time. I am a child of hip hop. I came up listening to like NWA, Too Short, Ice Cube. And then when I graduated, I remember listening to Little Kim and Missy Elliott and being like, okay, life changed, right? Just the empowerment and the permission that they gave themselves to be full-bodied women really like inspired me. So if I'm thinking now, I guess, I don't know. It's funny because I've been listening to a lot of blues lately, but Drake is in rotation still. I know that I don't know if that's considered old. I like J. Cole. I like Kendrick Lamar. I like Kelly, 47. I like Rico Nasty. I'm just open to anyone who's trying to get free with their art, you know, and I can live with a little bit of like swag. We're so used to people talking bad about us and degrading us that when you find people of a marginalized community loving themselves, like I just make space for that all the time. But yeah, when I like the music within the lyrics, you know, the music within the lines, and the you know serves as a mantra, as a reprise. So all of it is very much influenced and informed by hip hop.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate that. I always get slack from my kids because I like Tupac. They make fun of me. So
Pac is good. Pac is, listen, classic.
and also in the same one, that the same book, the same collection that I'm not supposed to have, you the scattered through, or placed, I should say, placed throughout the collection, are sort of a series of works called Bullet Point of Self-Defense. And I was reading some of the work to my 14-year-old daughter, and I wasn't realizing at first what it was saying. And then they're basically talking about various degrees of sexual assault on women.
Mhm.
Can you talk to me a little bit about why that's important to include in sort of the current state of the world we're in?
Um, I just think that you know that we can't leave these things in the shadow when talking about assault, when talking about abuse of power, especially as women and young girls. I was working in a group home for teenage pregnant girls, and the average person that they were pregnant by were men that were like over 30. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, high school sweethearts. It was that was abuse, and they didn't realize it. So when I was like listening to them, those bullet points for self-defense were responses
Mm.
to our work together. And I just remember um one of the girls just thinking that it was like it's normal, it's fine, and I said it's not normal, it's not fine. And so now how can we um demystify demystify that kind of, you know, that violence, even the manipulation. It doesn't have to be like a malicious thing. People really think, oh, it's always been this way. Tradition doesn't make it so. And if you see it harming people, specifically younger um, females, feminine, like if you see that happening, you have to rupture that. You have to fracture that moment. You have to place as many obstacles in the way for it to continue happening, and you have to enlighten the young people that you're working with that they don't have to stand for this and there is an out.
Thank you. So
Mhm.
we have a couple of questions that were coming in. So I thought, we could take a look at some of those. And if you wanted to read any of your other ones, that would be nice as well.
Okay.
When did you begin writing, and what implored you to do so? Powerful.
I began writing in fourth grade, but for real, in 1998, in 2001, I became a full-time performing writer, teaching artist. But in 1999, I was a journalist. So 1999 to 2001, it was strictly music journalism. Uh, yeah. So, 22 years
22
doing
years.
it.
Okay. And then what implored you to do so, it says?
Oh, I was tired of being told to shut up. That was one. And the writing allows you to write whatever you want. The page doesn't talk back. So that was always a welcome pad for me. Also, I was interested. I mean, I love books. I love books. I used to steal them from the library. I used to work wherever I could work with books, book club, book fair. I'm there. Uh, so because books were such an important part of my life, reading then became writing. I wanted to write stories that I thought were missing. I didn't think that I could do it for a living. And I proved myself wrong.
Who was telling you to shut up? Was it society, family, friends?
I think, when older people are like, be quiet, grown people are talking, or kids aren't supposed to talk about this, like that was when I was really intrigued, because I was so used to people telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing, that when I finally wrote it down, whoever picked it up, they would read it and then they would ask questions so I could talk about it more. It was really, yeah, it was funny because it was like, you told me not to talk about it, but then you read it and now you want to talk about it.
Yeah, so they almost helped create you by saying shut up, because then you went to writing. And what was your inspiration to speak up and write these works? So you said a little bit already, but maybe some inspiration too.
Again, the young people I was working with, they were a huge inspiration. And the kind of stories I wanted to tell, the kind of voices that I wanted to focus on, my mother, my grandmothers, the matriarchs in my family, they were so few times that I would find their resemblance and their reflection in a book, that I wanted to make sure that the world remembers them the way I do. The first to go are your breasts hanging like sandbags, sad and remembering who they used to be. The way a wind chime whistle can sound like a refrain. Stay home, daughter. No one wants to talk about a woman's body during a disaster, like she's the disaster, walking and moving slow towards the sun. They rather talk about the things they can't wait to change until it's voting season, or tax season, or killing season. Extra, extra. Another Black girl is forgotten till dust, and the poets only remember her boyfriend's names or her brother's shoe size. They only remember the Black girl in her proximity to a Black boy worthy of his family's name. The pastor reads from Genesis and we nod, pay tithes, pass the plate and erase her initials from the scoreboard. Even the Black feminist forgets she was ever a girl child. She closes her eyes and calls her son Prophet, tells Prophet to never trust these hoes and twists his dreads with homemade beeswax. Her fingers cracked like stomped earth, her scalp tingling with bad news, and the news say a disaster is coming. Call it Irma, Katrina, Rona. America got a penchant for baby's breath and blood milk, but the blocks still hot in Brooklyn, and the nannies still push strollers full of babies they ain't birthed, cause the governor warns stay home, but the landlord echoes rent due. Go ahead, America. Wreak havoc on the plantation and charge the sharecropper to remove the sewage. Stay safe, stay home, or fall smoke's lunged lung as the next internet sensation relies on old hip hop t-shirts and yoga pants while Lizzo teaches her how to be human. Yo, even the trees look at Black bodies like welcome back. And the baby in the stroller ain't heard a lullaby like that since they dreamed Similac. And brown organic raw sugar go for double the price at Whole Foods. Get in line. 6 feet, fam. Don't sleep, fam. Paychecks from the government, courtesy of the taxes you paid 3 times the amount since the last 2 runs around this weak ass moon. We realized Gil Scott Heron was right. The Heron was right. I'd rather fall smack slapped against a wall than the light of a cop's badge, glint in my eye, flint in my sky. Everybody wants my census report, but don't nobody want to give me health care. The water got a blood in it. The trees got a memory. My city ain't on fire, but the fog is heavy. Each building swaddled in gray shit that makes us sick. Cover your mouth, cover your nose. Stay inside, stay home, or be run over and up on by the white woman who walks her dog so close you can hear what she's thinking. 6 feet who? The neighbors don't see me, but the broken man on the corner do. My breasts old with age, they sag like my spirit. He Timberland boot and black mask bark. He play brave, stomp his feet, and take up more space than there is sidewalk on the concrete. He howls at the sky like it ain't 12 p.m., like we ain't in a crisis. His eyes dart from my chest to my cheeks, but I'm an old broad now, and I got plenty of anger to lend. The days have bled from 2 weeks till forever, and I got blood on my mind. I dare him one time, kiss my teeth loud, then dare him with the clearing of my throat. It sounds like a funeral. It distracts him from the sound of key rings turning into knuckle rings, but he knows the difference between frail and pharaoh. He replaced his mask, corks his speech like a good wino, and lets me pass, an unhinged door on tilt. Oh, can you hear the world sing? So close to death, so close to life. Little water, little daughter, come home. And I'm going to read a little from my YA novel that's coming. It is about losing your friend in a time where your friends tell you who you are about yourself. So what does it mean to decide who you are despite your friends, right? And it also, this book is a novel in verse, and it talks about colorism, addiction, mass incarceration, and consent. So the best friend is Laylee. The best friend of the narrator is Laylee. Laylee got a way of sounding way older than she is, which makes anyone on the other side of her advice feel stupid, or even worse, young and stupid. Laylee was held back a year in middle school. She said it was right when her mama went off the deep end and she had to raise her younger sisters, Liz and Leah, before her daddy stepped in. One day after school, I watched her washing mismatched plates and cereal bowls. Little trails of her younger sister's breakfast left in the sink. Her eyes never blinked, but she almost smiled. Her given name is Lillian, but she say, my mama gave me that name and I don't want to keep nothing that woman gave me. Laylee says Google makes everything perfect. Look it up. How do you fix a run in your stocking? You don't. How do you make a boy fall in deep like? Focus on your lip gloss. Always apply a second coat. Touch his arm whenever you can. Don't let him grab you up. How to kiss. Find a mirror. Purse your lips together. Kiss the glass. Make sure it isn't wet when you pull back, and stare at the impression of your breath. Now, do it again. How to fight the sadness. Dance to your favorite song, loud, loud. Call your friends and talk them into walking the mall with you. Call someone that likes you more than you like them and let their adoration fill you up. Put on your favorite pair of leggings and strut to the corner store, slow. Buy something small, a pack of gum, a candy bar, or a bag of flaming hot Cheetos. Laugh loud in front of your enemies. Don't write about it. Don't write about it? Nah, don't leave evidence of the sads, and never ever let it take you somewhere you can't come back from. And there's more, obviously. It's a 200-page novel in verse, but I'll make sure you guys have that little pre-order link. And I'll close out with this last poem, Black Girl Magic, for Candace. Yes, okay. They say you ain't supposed to be here, Black girl. You ain't supposed to wear red lipstick. You ain't supposed to wear high heels. You ain't supposed to smile in public. You ain't supposed to smile nowhere, Black girl. You ain't supposed to be no more than a girlfriend. You ain't supposed to get married. You ain't supposed to want no dream that big. You ain't supposed to dream at all. You ain't supposed to do nothing but carry babies and carry felons and carry weaves and carry silence and carry families and carry confusion and carry a nation, but never an opinion. Because you ain't supposed to have nothing to say, Black girl, not unless it's a joke. Because you ain't supposed to love yourself, Black girl. You ain't supposed to find nothing worth saving in all that brown. You ain't supposed to know that Tina, Beyonce, Cecily, Shonda, Rhymes, shine, 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 Black girl. You ain't supposed to love your mind. You ain't supposed to love. You ain't supposed to be loved up on, you only supposed to pose. Voodoo child, vixen style, you're supposed to pop out babies and hide the stretch marks. You're supposed to be still. So still they think you statue. So still they think you chalked outline. So still they keep thinking you stone. Until you look more Medusa, then Viola Davis. Until you sound more Shanae, then Kerry Washington. Until you're more side-eyed than Michelle Obama on a Tuesday, but you tell them you are more than a hot comb and a washing set. You are Kunta Kinte's kin. You are a Black girl worth remembering, and you were a threat. Knowing yourself, you were a threat. Loving yourself, you were a threat. Loving your kin, you are a threat. Loving your children, you Black girl magic, you Black girl fly, you Black girl brilliant, you Black girl wonder, you Black girl shine, you Black girl bloom, you Black girl, and you turning into a beautiful Black woman right before our eyes. Thank you.
Did it again, girl. every time. That's awesome. We just want to thank you so much, Mahogany, for joining us, for dealing with the technology, for getting here through COVID. It's just really been a blessing, and we're so honored to have you, and we would love to have you back whenever you want. So we're going to put up some links to your books. We have them also available at our bookstore, and you have provided some contact information for Instagram and Facebook and all of those things from before in the workshop. So if people want to check you out in those various capacities, anything you want to leave us with before you go? I hate to have you go, but.
No, this has been amazing. Thank you for being so good about how scary it all was. Appreciate your grace. And yes, I look forward to returning when we can see each other in real time.